Hello, everybody. We'll get a good hour and a half in today. Thanks for joining, everybody. Let me see. Oh yeah, my camera. Let me see if I can get my camera going. I was having trouble getting that camera working last time. I think it's still not going to work. I'll have to figure that out. But anyway, you can see the work that's on my screen, so that should be good enough. Don't get to see my gorgeous face today. Alright, so yeah, we're picking it up from where we were last week, making this snow monster from Calvin and Hobbes. So really excited to finish this off. Should be able to finish this today. So thanks for joining me, everybody. Just let me know if you have any questions in the chat, and I'm just going to start working on this. Hey, Sammy Fredo. Good to see you here. Okay, now that I have one snowman basically done, I'm going to duplicate this guy and just kind of make copies of him for the other snowman. Just trying to organize my scene a little bit. How's everybody weekend? How's your weekend go? Oh, whoops, before I duplicate this, I'm gonna have to lock in the eyes there. They were mirrored. Oh, hey, short motion. Yeah, I can show you my my interface. Um, yeah, I've got ZBrush across 3 different monitors, and so I have like my work in my main monitor, and then I've got the interface stretched out into 2 other monitors. So I've got interface in a lower monitor and a side monitor. So yeah, let me show you guys what that looks like. Pretty crazy, huh? It's like a fighter jet cockpit. Yeah, you're welcome. It was scary to see all my interface. I know, it's a lot to take in. I mean, I've been customizing my interface for years. So every time every time ZBrush comes out with a new version, I look at what I'm going to use regularly and I put it in my new interface. And just over time, it's developed into a monster that only I understand. Actually, I want to do something before I start duplicating too many of these. I want to create some organic sort of surface irregularities. It looks a little bit more like it's made out of snow than plastic. So did anybody watch the MTV Video Music Awards last night? And the only reason I ask, I didn't watch it, but I did work on some I guess stage visuals or like projected art in the on one of the performances. Curious, anybody watch it last night? Yeah, yeah. I guess it still exists. I actually never saw MTV growing up when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s. Back when that was a thing, my parents wouldn't let me watch it, so didn't get to watch that. We didn't even have cable, so weren't a lot of avenues for watching it anyway. I should have sculpted on all that texture and detail before I duplicated it, but whatever. It's just a casual project. Doing it for fun. So yeah. Anyway, the project I worked on was for this Colombian artist named Jose Balvin, and there were these giant, like 50 tall AR sort of hologram-ish ladies in bathing suits twerking Super classy, of course. Always keeping it classy. But yeah, I worked on that. I did the character modeling, clothing, hair, etc., shoes. Fun little project, just kind of last minute. Needed somebody. I got put in touch. Fun project to work on. Alright, now that I got my main snowman done, I'm going to duplicate, make the rest. Just going to create a lot of files here. I'm going to try to keep it simple. Hey, how's it going, Steamworks? It's going good. Just continuing working on this Calvin and Hobbes snow monster. Should finish it today. Not a whole lot left to do. So, yeah, Diego Munoz asks if there's any resources for getting better at stylized sculpting. Yeah, there's definitely courses to check out, lots of different places. Um, I mean, there's like cartoony character courses you can check out, or um, hold on a sec. I have to think about this real quick. How we split this? Okay. Yeah, and also a lot of it just comes down to practice. Yeah, I did change my transform gizmo. Good catch, Andro. So yeah, it's just a custom gizmo. You can get it as part of the Ryan's Tools Pro plugin that I sell through Gumroad. I'm gonna put in a link right here in the chat. So yeah, if you get the pro version of that, then there's a lot of extras like custom brushes, custom materials, alphas, etc., etc. Really cool resource. My own plugin. I mean, I just use it all day long. It speeds up everything I do. So yeah, I'm happy to offer that to the ZBrush community. Hey Edgris, how's it going? Let's see what else needs to be done. You know, I'm gonna put some of these killed, eaten snowman heads here on the ground. Cool. What part of the anatomy are you practicing? Oh, the old shoulder arm connection. Yeah, that's a tricky one. The next thing I want to program into my plugin is a way to easily snap two objects together. So if you like want to snap this carrot nose to another object, you could just like click where you want the base of the object to be, and then where you want it to, you just click again where you want it to snap to, and then boom, it snaps there, instead of this like dance of moving back and forth and looking at it from different angles and positioning it and rotating again and all that dance. Just kind of get rid of that. Maya has, you know, like snap together tool where you basically do that. So it'd be great if that was in ZBrush, but it's not. So it's a little tricky to figure out things with angles and like aligning things with correct angles in ZBrush, but that's something I'm working on for the next version of Ryan's tools. You know, I haven't noticed that, Edgar, about the inconsistency there. Yeah, I haven't noticed that myself, but I was curious. If you have a link to two different references that are like, you know, public links, that would be really cool. I'd be interested to check that out. We can look at that together. Alright, doing a quick little save here. I'm going to run to the restroom real quick. I'll be right back. Thanks for your patience, everybody. All right. There's a question here. What is your most common workflow for personal projects? I don't really have a common workflow for personal projects. I like to experiment with different workflows, especially on personal projects, because when you're doing a professional project, you kind of have to stick to a timeline. You got to deliver, results on a regular basis. There's not as much room to like try out different weird new things, just because it's like, you're on the clock for a client or whatever. But when I'm doing a personal project, I like to change it up, try out different things. So yeah, for personal projects, there's really no common workflow. That's where I like to do my experimenting. Well, there is no surprise why you're getting a Calvin and Hobbes vibe from this, because it is a direct ripoff of Calvin and Hobbes, complete homage. But I'm super happy that those Calvin and Hobbes vibes came through, even though you didn't know that it was. So that's cool. Gonna make a little pedestal. Maybe not. Maybe pedestal isn't the right word, but some kind of platform. I assume Steamworks are referring to Edgar's question. Yeah, I guess it's like flat earthers, It's like bicep inserters. What team are you? Flat Earth or round Earth? Which team are you? Between the brachialis, or there's a deltoid insert between the brachialis and biceps, or brachialis, or what? And the other half in brachialis and triceps. Got it. Yep, I don't know off the top of my head. My knowledge of anatomy is more I know some of the scientific terms for everything, but it's more like sort of remember them by shape and position. I have a very visual memory, not so much a verbal memory. So, just looking at anatomy, it's one of those things where I kind of I know the shapes better than the names. Well, have you got into sculpting hands yet, Edgar? So learning the shapes of anatomy, I mean, it really is, it comes down to practice. And just putting in that time with sculpting to get to know it. I mean, it's like doing anything. Like, just the more mental effort you give it, the better you're going to get at it. So definitely don't give up. You know, if anatomy isn't your strong thing, it's something you can always work at and get better at. And I'm by no means like uh like a top-notch expert at anatomy. But yeah, the more you know anatomy, the better of a sculptor you're going to be. That's just, even if you're sculpting things that aren't accurately anatomical, it's just like an invaluable skill. It informs all kinds of things. Like, if you're even if you're doing something like car design, vehicle design, right? I mean, there's they call, like, people describe like parts of cars in terms of human anatomy. Like, cars have a face, right? A body. Cars can be described as muscular. So it's weird, but like the more you understand about anatomy, the more you can like use that to inform the design of all kinds of things that aren't even, you know, organic, and be a more effective designer. Yeah, that is true. Bad faces stand out above all. How long have I been creating 3D art? My very first experience with doing 3D was around 1997. Picked up this really, really low-end 3D software. I mean, at the time, like, you needed a really high-end computer. It was out of my price range to really do 3D, but there was a simple one called Ray Dream Studio. I mean, it was like the MS Paint of 3D. It was pretty awful, but you know, it was exciting as a teenager to be playing around with that stuff. But really been doing it really intensely since about 2001. So I'm going to do just a little bit of sort of tweaking to make sure these snowmen aren't completely identical. Might even do some like quick and dirty tricks, like just swapping the left and right arms and posing them slightly differently. Hi, Cockabobble. Where's that name come from? It's a fun name. Hey, Maverick from Argentina. ¿Sos de Buenos Aires? Oh, my camera hasn't been working lately. I wasn't able to figure it out since the last live stream. So, unfortunately, no camera. Oh wow, Southern Patagonia. I I tried to get down to Southern Patagonia on a road trip back in 2006. I flew to Santiago de Chile with a good friend of mine, and we were hoping to drive down to Las Torres del Paine, but we only had a month and realized it was a little ambitious to drive all that way. So we got as far as La Isla de Chiloé, but amazing time. We never got into Argentina, but it was a really great trip. I hope to get back one day and actually like finish that. So there's a question, which stage do I switch from Dynamesh to ZBrush and Subdivs? It really depends on the project. This project, for example, I'm not going to animate it. This is just for a sculpture. It doesn't need to be animated, so clean topology is not really a big concern. So I might just leave it as Dynamesh. Even some of these, just to simplify some of these extra snowmen, I did a decimation on them. Just kind of keep the polygon count down. But I kept this hero snowman, sort of the first one. It's a higher resolution. But yeah, I mean, it just depends. I think for the most part, generally, if you want to have a clean topology for animation, or even just continuing sculpting sometimes, it's just really nice to have your edge flow following the anatomical structures. Basically, when the overall shape of the character is in place, and you know you're not going to make any major changes, or even mid-range changes, it's just when you're in the kind of fine tweaking stage. So for example, with this guy, yeah, I might still, keep adding a little bit of irregularity to it or whatever, but I'm not going to be changing any major forms. So yeah, right around this time is when I would do a Z remesher, and if it was for animation, I'd even clean it up really nice in Maya, because the polygon modeling tools in ZBrush aren't great. Yeah, but it kind of depends. There's not like any rule that you have to follow on that. So there's a question about sculpting without symmetry. I mean, sure, I don't know that more skill with anatomy will help you sculpt better without symmetry than like sculpting with symmetry and then just adding in asymmetry after you're done. It can't hurt either, but I mean, sculpting with symmetry in digital is like almost always the better way to go, just because it just makes it so much faster than having to sculpt both sides independently. Sculpting in clay is actually not that much harder in a lot of ways to do it symmetrically, because you got two hands, right? So you can, especially the more you practice when you're sculpting in clay, you can sculpt both left and right hands at the same time. So you if you're going to push in an eye cavity or whatever, you can put the same pressure with both thumbs and push it in. And so you can kind of work, at least when the sculpture is rough, kind of work with both hands as you shape it. So that really helps keeps things symmetrical. But yeah, it's typically not encouraged to sculpt asymmetrically digitally unless there's a really good reason for it. If you're doing a sculpture it's in pose, and it's also if it's a particularly loose sculpture with a lot of like loose gestural interpretations, and doesn't have to be particularly anatomically precise, then you might want to sculpt that in pose. But even then, it's not a bad idea to start symmetrically and then pose it afterwards. Yeah, so I mean, some of that, some of that asymmetry, that is true. Like time lapses, sculpting an old woman's head. I mean, you can sculpt symmetrically and then add in asymmetrical details and nuances and forms asymmetrically afterwards. You can there's no reason why you can't end up with a wonderful result that way. But if you want to spend the time to do it asymmetrically, what's great about that is like a lot of a lot of that asymmetrical, organic character is just going to be baked into it naturally, rather than having to like put it in as an afterthought. That's kind of related to the reason why I like to start from scratch no matter what I'm sculpting. Even if someone provides me with a base mesh of like a head or a body, I just want to start from scratch because I don't want anything that's already in that base mesh to compete with what the character should be. Because you're looking at a model that's a base mesh, a lot of anatomical and character decisions have already been made, and any ways in which the character you want to make deviates from that, you're sort of fighting upstream against what's already been made. So that same principle can apply sculpting a head symmetrically versus asymmetrically, where that asymmetrical character and nuance and organic feel, if you put it in as an afterthought, you are fighting upstream a little bit against what you've already done symmetrically. It's not as much of an issue with doing a head, but yeah, I could see that affecting it. I typically work symmetrically and then pose later, just because I know how to fight upstream with that when I have to, but it actually can be a challenge for a lot of people. So that was my ramble on that. Hope that was informative. How's my microphone sound today, by the way? We were having some problems a few weeks ago with the microphone quality. Cool, good to hear. I've got an air conditioning unit on. I was curious if that was creating any obnoxious noise for anybody. But I think the noise canceling in either the broadcasting software or maybe the mic driver or something is really helping with that. Hey, Moonhawking. Thanks. So I'm going to try to render this real quick. I'm just going to shoot it over to Keyshot. I think I might have screwed myself over a little bit. And some of these I have the carrot nose in the same mesh as the head. I should probably fix that before I try to get too far ahead, so I can get a different material on the carrot noses. Actually, there's a trick. If you put a different material on in ZBrush, to different parts of the same subtool, they'll be assigned different materials in KeyShot. I think. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. That looks pretty cool. I'm just going to re-import that since I made some changes. Wonder if I've got a snowy but brightly lit day, like a, what do they call them, the backdrop images, the HDRI images. I don't think I have one. Well, as long as an HDRI has like blue sky and sharp sun, I think it'll be okay. Testing out a few different ones here. So what material would I recommend to use for sculpting? That's a great question. So most of the time when I'm sculpting, there's this material right here that I like to use. It's a custom material I made. It's part of Ryan's Tools, my plugin, the pro version anyway. You have to get the pro version for this. But I'm trying to type in here. Okay. My computer's running slow because KeyShot's rendering that. But yeah, so, and also part of Ryan's Tools, I've got some quick buttons that let you like quickly switch between like polypaint mode, texture map mode, and this sculpting mode. And it just makes it really quick and easy to switch between these different material modes. So you can look at color, you could look at just the form, switch back and forth between them. Really handy. Just trying to find one of these materials that I like, or not materials, but HDRI environments. Okay, I think I can work with this one. Let's see if we can rotate it so it's cool. Okay, I kind of like that one. We can always change it later. Let's see if we can get a good material for that snow. So snow is pretty. It's got a lot of subsurface scattering going on, so I might even use like a wax material. So let's just see what that looks like. Oh crap, the sticks. Yeah. Those stick arms are the same subtool and material. So here, let me type into the chat where you can get those. So the Pro version is $20. That's for professionals, obviously. There's a $5 version which is for hobbyists and students, but that does not include my custom materials. Well, it actually does include the material, this material, but there's some other special materials that are only in the Pro version. And then there's a free version, which is kind of like a try before you buy. It's an older version, so you don't get all the newest features I've been adding to Ryan's tools if you get the free version. Alright, now maybe it's ready to send over to Keyshot. Should you uninstall the trial version before buying the Pro version? No. Pretty sure, well, you might want to just in case, but I'm pretty sure you can just install over it. But what you do is, if you want to uninstall, just go to the zplug64 folder in ZBrush. And then just find the ryanstools.zsc, and then also delete the Ryan's Tools folder in there, and that'll just uninstall it. And then when you buy the new version, just copy those that folder and that file back into the zplug64 folder. So pretty straightforward, pretty simple. So just playing with some different subsurface scattering settings here. Just trying to dial it in. Yeah, it looks like I'm going too high on the subsurface right now. Yeah, go ahead and paste a link to that sculpt you've been working on, and we can take a look at that. Luckily, you know, today is kind of like a lazy day for me. Not too much left to do on this piece here, so yeah, I'd be happy to fill in the time with taking a look at that. Yeah, I'm not sure how you can post links actually because there's some kind of filter. What's weird is the spam bots seem to be able to post just fine. So let's see, I'm just gonna try to find the right angle for this. Try to match the angle of the original art. Alright, we got about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to put a 15-minute timer into the renderer. And we'll just see what that looks like when it's done. And we'll just render that in the background. Nice high resolution image. And while that's rendering, I'll just do a couple other little tweaks and adjustments on this. Actually, I want to get those teeth with a little bit of snow texture as well. I used to have a footprint brush. I don't know what happened to it. it would like, you just draw and it would like track out footprints. That would be a good one to have. Let's see if I... No, I don't have that one anymore. I don't know what happened to it. I think when I updated to a new version of ZBrush, I didn't copy over some custom brushes, and then deleted, removed the old version of ZBrush, and I think those brushes were gone forever, which is too bad. See how this render's turning out. So yeah, it's only just a couple minutes in. So it should look pretty nice by the time it's ready. Alright, just gonna save my project here. Well, we're getting pretty close to wrapping it up for today. I started late, but I finished what I wanted to do anyway, so, you know, just to be consistent, I might as well end early, too. Does anybody have any final questions before I kick it off for today? Thanks, Teamworks. Thanks, Short Motion. Alright, well, you can basically see where the render's going. I mean, it's not like a great render or anything, but, you know, it's cool to see it with some subsurface scattering, and some realistic-ish lighting. Thanks a lot for joining me today, everybody. It's always a pleasure to be here. Next week, I'll start a completely new project. Oh, actually, real quick before I go, if anybody has any recommendations, like just off the top of your head right now, go. What should I sculpt next week? We got 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nobody came up with anything in time. That's too bad. No, that's cool. I think I'm gonna do a caricature of a celebrity or something. Alright, everybody. It's been a pleasure having you all here. Have a good one, and talk to you next time.